Hey everybody, and welcome to a very interesting review here on the channel today. Today we're going to be taking a look at a DC and Sonic the Hedgehog crossover. This 4-figure pack comes with a Shadow, Silver, and Sonic dressed up as various DC superheroes, as well as a Darkseid villain figure. Before we get into talking about the figures, I do want to take a look at the box because there's some really cool art to be seen here. On the left side, we get this really cool picture of Darkseid. Taking a look at the other side of the box, you can see some really cool art of Silver, Sonic, and Shadow respectively. Taking a look at the side of the box, again, you can find some really cool artwork of all the characters that are inside. And then here's a quick look at the other side of the box as well, which has, again, some really cool artwork of the characters that are included. I mean, they went all out with this box design. Moving around to the back of the box, you can see that there are some actual photos of the figures that are inside. And the Shadow figure comes with this really cool feature where the bat symbol in the middle of his chest can light up. And before we take a look at the figures, I did want to show off the background that is included inside of the box if you're curious. But now that we have the box out of the way, let's go ahead and open it up and take a closer look at the figures inside. And my first impressions of the figures are going to be relatively strong because I think it is such a cool idea to mix up these Sonic the Hedgehog characters with various DC heroes. The first figure we're going to be taking a look at is the star of the show in my opinion, and that is the Batman and Shadow the Hedgehog crossover figure. And man, is this thing super cool. I love the design of the superhero outfit. One of the details I really appreciate about this figure is they actually changed the red on the back of Shadow's quills there to gray to match the overall design of the outfit. The paint job is applied relatively well here, and overall there's just some really great looking detail to be seen. There's also some detail on the bottom of Shadow's shoes, which I greatly appreciate. And then if you're curious, here's a look at the back of Shadow's cape, and it has a nice purple undertone to it. Shadow does come with some relatively good articulation too. The head is able to rotate side to side. There's some articulation in the shoulder and elbow of this figure as well, and you can even open and close his hand. Moving down to the lower extremities, you can see that there's some pretty good range of motion in the hip, knee, and even the foot of the character too. You do have to be careful when posing Shadow because his head is very top heavy, and if you're not careful, he is going to topple over rather easily. So to get the figure to light up, all you have to do is actually push in on the bat symbol found on Shadow's chest and it lights up. It's nothing super crazy, and because of this feature, Shadow doesn't have any torso articulation, but I don't necessarily think it's the end of the world and it looks pretty good. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the Silver the Hedgehog and Green Lantern crossover figure. This figure also has a really cool design, and I think that picking Silver to be the Green Lantern is a perfect combination. I really like the head mold for this figure as it's very accurately shaped and it looks good from pretty much any angle. There's also some good balance between the green and black found all throughout the figure. And a little fun fact about me is this is actually going to be my first Silver the Hedgehog figure to ever throw into my Sonic collection, and it is a really good one to include. Here's a closer look at the ring, which isn't super highly detailed, but it is a necessary inclusion for the figure. Moving on to the articulation, it's very similar to that of Shadow. Silver's head is able to rotate back and forth. There's some good articulation in the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and fingers of the figure. The only difference really is Silver comes with some torso articulation, which I don't think is necessary for these figures, but I suppose it is nice to have, and then you can see there's also some good articulation and range of motion in the lower extremities too. Because of the size and shape of Silver's shoes, you're going to have absolutely no problem displaying this figure on a shelf. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at everybody's favorite Red Blur. This is the Sonic Flash figure, and man do I love this thing. It is so cool looking. The yellow lines found all throughout the figure are very faint and small, but they do a lot to complement the design of the figure, and their application is done really well. Really, the only negative thing I have to say about this figure is it's really highly detailed until you get to the shoes. It's kind of weird how they're just plain yellow. Taking a little bit of a closer look at Sonic, you can see that there are some yellow lightning bolts found on the outside of his ears. That is such a cool inclusion to me, and it really adds a lot to the overall look of the figure in my opinion. The lightning bolt in the middle of his chest also looks really good, and personally, I wish this one came with the light up feature instead of the Shadow. But moving on to the articulation, it's very similar to the previous two figures. The head is able to rotate. There's some good articulation in the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand. The lower extremities of the figure also come with some good articulation in the hip, knee, and foot of the character. And I forget to show it off here, but Sonic also comes with some torso articulation, which is a nice inclusion, I suppose. I didn't have any problem posing this figure, and I think he's going to look really great on my shelf. And last but not least, we have the Darkseid villain from the DC universe. I am more of a Sonic fan than a DC fan, but I still think that this is a really cool looking figure. Although I personally think I would have liked to have seen this figure also have a crossover, like maybe a Darkseid Eggman, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But taking a look at the figure for what it is, I do think it is a relatively solid figure, and there's a lot of really cool detail to be seen here. And another fun fact about me is this is actually going to be my very first DC figure, and I do think it is a rather nice one to start off with. The one thing that I did find rather disappointing though is the articulation in this figure does feel relatively stiff. You can see that there's some articulation in the shoulder, elbow, and the wrist of the figure. Both of the hands of this figure are unable to close, which isn't necessarily a super big deal, but I do find it rather unfortunate that it is lacking that feature. Moving down to the lower extremities, you can see that there's some pretty good range of motion and articulation here as well, but again, it is really stiff to move it around. And of course, the head is able to articulate left and right too. Even with some limitations compared to the other figures, it is relatively easy to pose him and he does look really good. The Power vs. Speed pack retails for $60. which I do feel like is a tad overpriced for what you're getting here. I personally would have liked to seen this bundle go for about $45 to $50. But as an adult fan of Sonic, I don't regret my purchase because these are some really cool figures that we are more than likely never going to see again. If you're a fan of Sonic and you want these figures in your collection, I personally think it could be worth that $60 price tag. If you're just an average Sonic or DC fan, this is going to be an easy pass as it is relatively overpriced for what you get. But I do want to thank you guys so much for watching my review, and if you enjoyed, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel so you can see more reviews in the future.